They say Black mothers are the backbone of the community, strong, unshakable, resilient. But what happens when the same strength that keeps a family alive also leaves scars? In this video, we're going to talk about a topic many people avoid: Black maternal resentment toward daughters, where it comes from, how it's tied to generational trauma, why some mothers treat their sons and daughters so differently, and how this pain doesn't stop in the home. It spills out into how women treat each other at work, at church, and even in everyday social spaces. We'll also look at how this shows up in classic and modern stories, from the original Brothers Grimm Cinderella to Sapphire's Precious, and how Mark Wolin's It Didn't Start With You gives us the tools to understand and stop the cycle. To understand resentment, we have to go back. From slavery through Jim Crow to today, Black mothers have carried the weight of survival for their families. Patricia Hill Collins, in Black Feminist Thought, explains that Black mothers often feel pressured to prepare their daughters for a world that will not be kind to them. That preparation often takes the form of strictness, discipline, and criticism, a survival-based parenting style that says, "Trying to make you strong, because the world will try to break you." But here's the hidden truth. Survival parenting can come across as emotional distance and sometimes outright resentment, especially when the daughter represents something the mother never had: freedom, education, or the space to be soft. There's an old saying, raise your daughters, love your sons. And in many Black households, it's true. Daughters are raised, molded into many adults, loaded with responsibility, expected to be independent and disciplined. Sons are loved, given emotional softness, spared from household duties, and shielded from harsh criticism. Why? Because for many Black mothers, their sons are seen as especially vulnerable to police brutality, street violence, incarceration. They protect them emotionally as a form of love, sometimes at the expense of holding them accountable. Meanwhile, daughters get the message: you need to be perfect to survive. Mark Wolin's It Didn't Start With You explains why this imbalance persists. Unhealed trauma distorts how love and discipline are divided between children. A son can become a stand-in for the love the mother never received from men, while the daughter becomes the outlet for her fears, disappointments, and projections.
I was 9 when I told my mom her boyfriend was abusing me. You can read between the lines. I remember the exact look on her face, like I had just spit in her food. She didn't ask me questions. She didn't hug me. She just said, "Stop lying on that man." She told me I was too grown, that I was jealous of their relationship. After that, she wouldn't leave me alone in the house. But not to protect me, to keep me away from him so she wouldn't have to hear my lies. I learned that my voice wasn't safe. I learned that women wouldn't always protect me, even my own mama. When I got older, I noticed I didn't trust women at work or in church. I kept my distance. Every time one smiled at me, I waited for the switch, the moment she'd turn cold. I'm in therapy now, but sometimes I still see that look on my mama's face.
To really see how old and universal these patterns are, let's look at two very different stories, one from centuries ago and one from modern Black literature. In the original Brothers Grimm Cinderella, the cruelty comes from inside the home. The stepmother and stepsisters resent Cinderella because she has qualities they lack, and possibly because she still has her father's affection. They overwork her, limit her joy, and treat her as less than while indulging themselves. Sound familiar? It's a fairy tale version of the daughter who gets discipline and labor while others in the home get leniency and care. Now, fast forward to Precious, the novel Push by Sapphire, and its film adaptation. Here we see the darkest form of maternal resentment. Precious's mother, Mary, is violently abusive and refuses to protect her daughter from sexual abuse by her father. Instead, she blames Precious for stealing her man, a horrifying example of abuse, denial, and projection. In Cinderella, rescue comes through magic, the mother's spirit aiding her, a ball, and a prince. In Precious, there's no fairy godmother. Survival comes through education, community support, and Precious finding her own voice. Both stories, though wildly different in tone, reveal the same dynamic. A woman in a position of care using that position to control, punish, or destroy another woman in the household. So, what happens to a daughter raised under constant scrutiny? She often grows into a woman who repeats what she experienced, not just with her own children, but with other women. This is where misogynoir, the unique blend of racism and sexism faced by Black women, becomes internalized. When society tells you over and over that Black women are less deserving of love, protection, or grace, you can start to believe it and pass it on. That's why you'll see microaggressions between women, backhanded compliments, exclusion, or emotional coldness, especially in spaces where trust hasn't been built.
My mom always babied my brother. He could do no wrong. Me, I had to clean, cook, take care of him all before I was 10. When her boyfriend started hitting me, she said I must have mouthed off or done something to deserve it. She told me men don't like smart mouths. I learned early that my role was to serve, keep quiet, and protect men's feelings, even when those men hurt me. As an adult, I found myself competing with other women for approval I didn't even want. I was cold to women who reminded me of myself at that age because my mother taught me softness was weakness. It's taken years to see that my real enemy was the silence we were forced to keep.
On a conspiracy, there would always be two. You see, you have the active conspirators and you have the passive conspirator. See, it's like child abuse. There were always two. You have the father who does the beating, active, but you have the mother who turns her back, passive. Isn't apathy, indifference, low expectations, buying hot goods in the Black community, isn't that also part of a conspiracy? You have the active and you have the passive. And so we bat number 5 through 9. Batting fifth, not all but some mothers who raise their daughters and love their sons.
Here's something many people notice but rarely talk about. A woman can be distant or even rude to another woman, and then when a man walks in, she suddenly becomes warm, pleasant, and friendly. This isn't always fake. It's a learned behavior called performative femininity. It's rooted in the idea that male validation equals safety, status, and acceptance. Historically, Black women have had to navigate dangerous social environments by adapting their demeanor around men, especially men with perceived power. In all female spaces, that mask often drops, and what comes out might be competitiveness, insecurity, or hostility. One of the most heartbreaking results of this dynamic is when a mother doesn't believe her daughter after she discloses sexual abuse, especially when the abuser is the mother's boyfriend. Why does this happen? Trauma denial. Believing her daughter would mean facing her own past abuse. Financial or emotional dependence on the abuser. Projection, blaming the daughter to avoid guilt. Internalized misogynoir, the belief that black girls are grown before they're grown. Georgetown's Girlhood Interrupted study found that black girls as young as 5 are seen as more adult, less innocent, and less in need of protection than white girls. That perception exists outside the home, and tragically, sometimes inside it too. Wolin's work explains that when a child's trauma triggers a parent's unhealed pain, the parent may unconsciously shut down or reject the child. Not because the abuse didn't happen, but because facing it feels impossible. Here's the hope. These patterns can end, but only with awareness and accountability. Healing means therapy that addresses family of origin trauma, learning emotional literacy, creating safe spaces for vulnerability among women, intergenerational conversations that admit the pain instead of hiding it. As Wolin says, when we give language to the trauma we've inherited, we take the first step toward ending the cycle. Breaking the cycle is possible, but it starts with telling the truth, not just about what happened to us, but about what we've done to others because of it.